Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rox and today I'm just going to be talking over some of my favorite romance books or books with any kind of romance in it. February is coming up and Valentine's Day is in February, obviously. Thank you, Catherine Obvious. I just thought I'd tell you, if you want to get into like the romance feels, the romance vibes, and you want to read books, to do that. But first I'm going to start off with one that I've talked a lot about. Gumiho by Kacho. So obviously this is urban fantasy. There's a really nice romance in this one, but I've talked a lot about it. But this is one I'd highly recommend you read in February if you want to read romance books. Now I'm going to start talking about those that I don't really mention that much, or those that I've read a while back. If you're looking for something that's very slow burn, I would recommend The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I really actually like this book. It's one of my favorites and I think I read it 3 years ago. It's not focused on the couple. It's mainly these two magicians that kind of have to battle it out. That's the main plot of it, and then there's also the circus that appears at night, and it's a very magical circus. But there is a really nice romance in this that I really appreciated, and it's very, very slow burn. I prefer slow burn romances, so obviously that's why this one is one that I also recommend. Another one I'd recommend, and it's one I read only recently, but it's like a booktube baby. It's a booktube favorite, but I really recommend it. I read it and I understand the hype, and that is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Red, White and Royal Blue follows the Prince of Wales and the first son. So in this universe, the 2016 US presidential elections were won by a woman, and it follows her son. So these two kind of start off not as enemies, but they just kind of don't like each other, or like one doesn't like the other, but then they fall in love. And it's actually, I get the hype, I understand the hype. It's such a good story. There's also a lot of political intrigue, so if you are into politics, I personally am, so I enjoyed reading it in the story. Yes, it's fictional, I get it, but it's still enjoyable, and it questions a lot of, like, it heavily criticizes the monarchy, which I'm like, go ahead girl, question the monarchy, question thems. Another thing with Red, White and Royal Blue is just the whole cast of characters. Every single one, our main characters, their siblings, their friends, all of it is just, they're all so great. It's a book with great characters, which is another thing that just makes it like step up to the next level. There's a lot of banter in that book. A lot of people are very sarcastic, and I don't know if I can hype this book up more, but it already has a lot of hype, but I'm adding to the hype train. Next one I'm going to be talking about is a classic that I know a lot of people have read, and if you haven't read it, I would recommend Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Again, it's quite a slow burn, and it's a hate to love, enemies to lovers kind of story, which tend to be my favorite. Not tend to be, they are hands down my favorites. So definitely read this one. It is a classic, so for me personally, it took me a while to get through it. The language is beautiful, but it is a bit complicated, and it makes I have to like think a while. I really did enjoy this one, so I think if you haven't read it and you're looking for a good romance book, especially a classic, this is one I'd recommend. I think this one is the queen of classic romance novels. If you know another one, let me know. The next romance book I recommend you read as soon as possible is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. It is a hate to love, enemies to lover story. Those are like my favorites, so like, what are you gonna do? I love those stories. So definitely read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So it follows co-workers Lucy and Josh. They work in a publishing house, and the story is told from Lucy's perspective, and there's this hating game going on between the two of them. And there's also a certain point in the novel when they are kind of competing for the same promotion. It was well written, it was very funny, it was very sweet. So for those reasons, I'd recommend you read it. They're also making a movie with it. I think Lucy Hale is starting as the main character, but I don't know when the movie's gonna come out. I'm so excited for it though. It should be a really good movie, because that book would adapt really well into a film. Taking a break from the whole enemies to lovers, because there are more, I'm gonna go to one with like friends to lovers, and that is Rainbow Days by Josephine Cox. This is a historical fiction following two friends. The girl saves the guy from a dog when he's younger, when he's like they're both children, and then they just stay friends throughout the years and eventually fall in love. But there's a lot of outside forces trying to break them apart. This was like the first romance book I read, because I read it so many years ago, but I really enjoyed it, and I like the historical aspect of it all. There's a lot of betrayal in it by other people. It kind of gave me telenovela vibes, you know, because there's so much drama and betrayal and like just twists, and people are just drama, so much drama. But it was still a fun book to read. Two left that I'm going to recommend you, and the next one is going to be Vicious by Alja Shen. Yes, the next two books are both enemies to lovers. So Vicious by Alja Shen is the first in a romance series, but I have not continued it, but only because I couldn't find the second book in the series, so I'm still on the lookout for it. But I really do want to continue. So Vicious follows our two characters. They know each other when they're young, but the guy Vicious, his name is Vicious, his nickname is Vicious. This was actually one of my favorite books for 2019. So as teenagers, Vicious comes up with a scheme to get rid of the girl and make her leave town. Obviously this is a horrible thing to do to someone, so she doesn't view him in the best light. Years later they meet up when they're adults, when they're grown. She has to start working at his company. They still don't like each other, but then that's where the romance starts off. Woo! Fair warning with this one, it is like soups smutty. It's new adult, so there's like a lot of sex scenes in it. So our main character has a sister. She has a younger sister, and I love her younger sister so much. So from what I understand, one of the books in the series follows the sister. That's why I need to continue with the series. She's taking care of her sister. Her sister is also chronically ill, so she becomes the main caretaker for her and her sister. So there is a lot of family drama in this as well. It's not only about the couple. I mean, they do take center stage, but they have a lot of other things going on in their life as well. And then the last book that I'm going to be talking about, surprise, surprise, it's Enemies to Lovers. It's my favorite trope, guys. That's all I read. It's mostly what I read when it comes to romance. But that one is going to be one of my favorite books of all time. The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. I've never read any other Christina Lauren book, but this one I had to, because I heard the synopsis and I had to. Our main character, Olive and Ethan, their siblings are getting married to each other, but at the wedding or the wedding reception, I can't recall, everyone gets food poisoning except for the two of them for very logical reasons. You'll find out when you read it. So everyone gets really sick, and Olive and Ethan end up taking the all expenses paid honeymoon that Olive's sister won to Hawaii. So these two have to fake date, which is another like really fun trope, but they have to fake date and they don't like each other. And they're in Hawaii. Such a good book. It's so funny, but it also has some really cute scenes, but it also has some really steamy scenes. So it's a really great novel. The majority of the story does take place in Hawaii, so the setting is also really good. They do a lot of different activities. They go paintballing, I believe. They go to the beach a lot. There's a lot of fun activities in this book, and we get to follow along. The ending of this book was also super romantic and very, very cute. So this is another one that I highly recommend if you are looking for romance books. So those are all the books I'm going to be talking about today. If you've read any of these, please let me know. I know this video is very short, but I don't have a lot of romance recs because I don't like a lot of what I read. If you have any suggestions of ones you think I might like, especially if it's enemies to lovers, please let me know. And have a good reading day, have a good reading week. I love you, probably like a friend, as a friend. Okay, bye.